Death. The inevitable conclusion to us all. Something we don't like to talk about now, is it? Well, guess what? We're going to talk about it today. Death and the Xxl Man. Here on Big Pretty Man. Hi, and welcome back to Big Pretty Man, a channel for the Xxl man who wants to live his life large and in charge. I'm your host, Timothy Big Pretty Crowe. I'm a wardrobe and lifestyle consultant for the Xxl Man. And as I said in the intro, gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about death. And let's just face it, death is a frightening subject. It's something that we all know that's going to eventually happen to us. We don't like to give it a lot of thought. And in fact, when you're a younger man, a man like in their teens and 20s, even maybe into your early 30s, you don't really think you're going to die. I know deep down, yes, we know that we're going to die at that age. But when you're that age, when you're young, and your body hasn't started breaking down, it's very academic. It's, yes, in concept you're going to die, but deep down you really don't believe it. Heck, they don't even believe in their 20s that they're going to start really getting older and go through the same things that their parents and grandparents go through. However, as you get older and you've gone through several deaths, losing family members and friends, and also seeing just how precarious life can be between accidents and disease and violence in our world, and your body, as I said, starts to show the signs of age. You realize, oh yeah, I'm going to die. And after 50, it's going to be sooner than later. You're over the hump. So, at that point, it does start to become more of a reality. But even then, still something we don't like to talk or discuss. But it is something that we need to discuss. And also, as extra large men, let's face it, our life expectancy is going to be lower. Now, true, some extra large men live to be quite elderly, but the life expectancy now is around about 78. Most heavy-set men, they're lucky if they make it past their 60s. I don't know the stats on that exactly, but that's about right. So, if you're a man past 50, you got about 2 decades to go, and 2 decades go by quick. And that's if some fool doesn't kill you or you don't get some horrible disease. And even though this is a morbid subject, yes, it needs to be addressed and needs to be arranged and treated in a mature manner. So, I figured that I'd take this opportunity to talk about death, and especially as it applies to extra large men. And there are some issues that you're going to have with it if you're an extra large man. Now, first off, let's talk about having a death plan. It's something that we, especially as we're getting older, we definitely need. We need to take that uncomfortable few hours to really straighten things up, to make our arrangements financially as well as religiously or socially, and get those records together to make it easier on those loved ones we may have that will be confronted with your death and your funeral. And the more that we do now, the easier it will be for them later. So with a death plan, what you really need to do is you need to get a will together. Even if you don't have much of anything, at least, take care of what you do have and who it goes to. And then also, because I've seen a lot of families, I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of families just really fall apart. Just even a tight family, just completely fall apart over inheritance, over who gets dad's chair. My family was actually in a feud over a rocking chair for 30 years. Yeah, a rocking chair. So go ahead and settle all that. Say who gets what. Don't leave it to the kids. Oh, just divide it among yourself. No, you get this, you get that. Divided equal. Want everything sold, or I want everything sold. You guys divide the money equally. Have that all taken care of. But also, let them know in a will or in some sort of document that you can get notarized your funeral and burial requests, and what you want done with your body, with your corpse. So, what kind of religious ceremony do you want? If you're having a religious ceremony, what do you want as done as far as the disposal of your body? Do you want to be buried in a grave? Do you want to be put in a crypt? Do you want to be cremated? Or some of the other alternatives which I'm going to be talking about. Also, what about the finances of your funeral? The average funeral today runs about $10,000 in America, or higher. Somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000. Matter how fancy you want to get, and that's just the basics. We're talking about, the viewing, the embalming, the casket, the plot, the tombstone, just the basics. Doesn't say anything about what kind of service you're going to have. Who's going to pay for that. If you want to have clergy come in, usually they take a fee for that. Yeah, whether you're going to have a music group, or some sort of favorite song played, those people are going to want to be paid. Things like that, flowers, all of that. You need to make arrangements for that. So one of the most important things you can do, and do it now, is to get some burial insurance, which can be a little separate from life insurance. Life insurance will also usually cover burial, but I would look specifically for burial insurance. And I would say, being as a funeral runs around $10,000, I would get at least some coverage for $15,000 to $20,000. And we'll tell you why for it to be even higher. It costs a little bit each month, but in the long run, it's you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your friends, you're doing it for your loved ones, so they won't have to try and scrounge and get money and have everybody pitch in who's paying for what. Have all that settled for them. Have all that done. Have the documents saying, hey guys, this is what I want done with my body. This is how I want my funeral done. These are the songs I want sung. These are the people that, if they're still alive, I want them to speak at my, do my eulogy. You'll get this clergy. Have all that in a document for your next of kin, whoever that may, legal next of kin, whoever that may be, whether it be a child, a brother, a sister, or your mother, whoever it is, and have that all set up for them. Now, another part about that is also to figure out, yes, what exactly do you want to have done with your body? Do you, like I said, do you want it buried? Do you want cremation? Do you want a crypt? Do you want some more of a green funeral? And these things you have to consider because of price. Now, one thing that will apply, and the reason I said you're going to need better money and insurance, is because, for just like a lot of other services out there in the world, like seats on airplanes and other types of accommodations, the funeral homes and the entire funeral culture really aren't geared toward extra large people. They are getting better about it, and there are you can be accommodated. However, it's going to probably cost you a bit more, especially if you weigh over about 330 pounds. Right now, I'm probably right at the edge of it. If I gained any more, I am looking at a lot of extra costs. Well, for one thing, coffins, let's take a casket or a coffin. Your average casket, which reminds me of the airplane seat, is about 24 to 27 inches wide. So, and if so pull out that measuring tape and measure and figure out, are you going to fit in a regular size casket? It is better if you can. You may actually look about inner linings and all that can give you a little extra room, and a regular standard size casket, because if you don't, you're going to have to get an extra large casket, and they can run a couple $1,000s more. So, you'd be looking at, $2,500 in the minimum for an extra large coffin. That is the minimum. That's actually probably going to buy it yourself. Go to the funeral home, it's going to be a lot more. So, so that's one thing, and they can make coffins up to 52 to 54 inches. They can even accommodate somebody as heavy as 500 pounds. However, there's other considerations and other costs that are going to come with that because you're an extra large man. Number one, the burial plots. The average burial plot is 3 feet wide and about 8 feet in length, or 6 feet, 6 feet under, 6 feet deep. Now, if you're large, if you have, say you are a person 500 pounds, or you need that extra large coffin, then that hole's not going to be big enough. They're going to have to dig it wider. And if they have to dig it wider, then usually in graveyards, they have a set size which fits between other plots. So unless you can get like someplace in the corner where there's not other plots, or you're going to have to pay for an extra plot beside of you. If you're, mattering on your size, if and whether or not your coffin will fit in the standard plot. So you got that to consider. Then okay, let's say, well, all right, if we're going to go through all that, then I'll just get cremated. Well, guess what? Because you're a bigger body, that you have more fat content, and fat burns at high temperatures. In fact, it burns, like a big candle. And it's going to take longer and more. They use natural gas. It's going to take longer to burn your body. And also, they have to burn it right. You got to get a crematorium and get somebody that works in a crematorium that really knows what they're doing. Because with an extra large body, if they get that heat too fast, then all of the fat and all of that ignites too quickly. It can really cause a very hardcore black smoke that's going to be flooding out into the atmosphere. A big greasy black smoke. And they don't want that. That affects the environment. So a good crematorium knows how to work that heat to properly cremate your body. But it is going to take longer. It's going to take more gas, and therefore it's going to take more money. Now, being cremated is a lot cheaper. I think you can get it as low as $350, $400 in that area. But if they have to burn more, you could be looking at another $100 to $500. It matters on, it could take, if you're double size a person, then it could take double the time and double the expense. So even there, you're going to have to pay a lot more. Maybe not as much as you did for a funeral plot, a burial plot, but it's still going to be more. Now you're thinking if you want to go in a crypt. Well, crypts have similar measurements for accommodating a standard casket, and therefore that may be a hard option if you have an extra large casket that won't fit into the standard crypt. Now, things are changing in the funerary world and mortician's world, and they are starting to, about 36% of our population are considered morbidly obese. That's a big percentage, and all them people are going to die, so they've got to be disposed of. So now a lot of mortuary mausoleums, are making larger boxes, for larger crypts to accommodate bigger coffins. There are a lot more caskets that are, that you can find. There are these extra large shapes. Even the graves, they may have a section in some cemeteries that are literally for the jumbo lot. But the thing is, this is the reason where your death plan comes in so important. You need to do research. You need to check with your with the funeral homes and see if they carry those type of caskets. And if you can, it's actually a lot cheaper if you buy your own casket, like offline, or even from some dealer. They even here they show some at Costco. And to get to get that coffin that fits you, so that the family already has it and it'll fit. Check with the if you're going to be cremated, check with your funeral home and let them know, hey, I'm a man that's built more for comfort than speed, and there's a lot of me. So I'm going to need accommodation. Do you have a crematorium that will fit me? Because some of the crematorium doors are not wide enough for those extra large people, and they can't just stuff you in there. But some of them do have much larger doors. It's because they're going to be so much more extra large people. But you need to find out. You need to call around to funeral homes talk to the mortician and say, and be honest with them. Say, hey, I'm a fat guy. I'm so-and-so size and so-and-so weight. And I'm going to need a coffin to that size, or I'm going to need to be cremated. Does your crematorium or the crematorium you use have an extra wide door to accommodate? What's going to be the extra price on all that? And same thing with the graveyard. When you go out to the cemetery, ask the sexton or the organization that's in charge of that graveyard and say, do you have, a plot for me because I'm an extra large man? I'm going to have an extra large coffin. Is there a place in this graveyard that either is a section for extra large people, or do you have a place where you're not likely to have a plot beside of me? You need to check that. You need to have that all that work. And if you find that, you put it in your death plan. Call this funeral home. Get the coffin from this place, and here's how much it's going to cost. Or I've got the coffin in a storage unit. Go get it. All of that. The crematorium, know what urns you want and all of that. So that, that they don't go through that type of trouble. And also, that's embarrassing. That's not very dignified way, death. That's not a very dignified way for you to leave this world, is people having complications that they can't pick you. That's another thing. They've got to make sure that they can accommodate lifts and all that for an extra large person. We're heavy, and with that coffin, we're even heavier, and that can be an issue. In fact, all of they're expensive. Extra gas and lifts and extra people, and also when you're embalmed, because you're a bigger body, it's going to take a lot more embalming fluid and a lot longer to do, and that's going to up the price on it. So you need to find out. One, that you have a funeral home that will accommodate these things, that you have a cemetery that can accommodate you, and know exactly how much those extra costs can be. It can be, with all that together, it can be as much as about $800 to $3,000 extra. Find out what that price is, and that's why you really need to get burial insurance up to $20,000. That should cover you. 15 minimum to 20, but I'd say $20,000. I know from AARP, Global Life, they offer some pretty good insurance, or even more than that. So, at a fairly reasonable rate. So, those are things you want to get done. Now, there are a few other alternatives that may be cheaper, and more accommodating. One would be what they call a green funeral. With a green funeral, can cost very little. Basically, and especially if you get buried within 24 hours in a lot of states. For one, if you get buried before 24 hours, because of Muslim and Jewish beliefs and other religious beliefs, some people are buried before sundown the next day. If you can arrange a funeral like that, you don't have to be embalmed, and that's decreasing a big expense. In truth, embalming is really needed if you are, if something happens to your body, if it's found later on, something like that, or it gets damaged, then you may have a need for embalming. But other than that, really, if you're burying within a couple of days, you really don't need to be embalmed. Some states require it if it's past 24 hours. You have to check with your state and see what the requirements are. But if you can possibly get a green funeral, they're just going to put you either in a shroud, or if the state requires you be in some sort of container, they're going to put you in like a wicker basket, which might cost about $1,200, or even less. Than a coffin that's like $3,000, $2,000 to $3,000. They're going to put you in a basket, or just if you don't have to have a coffin, you can be wrapped in a shroud, which costs little to nothing. You'd be buried, you're buried without, without all the trimmings. It's just basically they take you out and bury, a shroud or a basket and bury you in the ground. That's a lot cheaper. And also, if you're the type of person that wants to see your body return to nature, a more natural form of death, a more natural type of decomposition that matches with nature, then that's a good alternative. Now, of course, a lot of this will be determined by people's religious beliefs. I know that Catholics are rather against cremation, even though they've only allowed it in the last couple of decades. But there are, but other types of burial is kind of frowned upon. But and you have to take those. Those the requirements for your own religious beliefs. So you can pretty much take care of that, and that's going to be a factor. So you can handle that. But the green funeral is probably one of the cheapest around. But there are a couple of other alternatives if you have the money, and if it's legal in your states. One, people like I'd love to be mummified, but there's nobody that does that. Actually, there is a company that mummifies. They're called Summum, and out of Utah, and they will mummify your body using modern techniques, modern chemicals and techniques, not the way they did it in ancient Egypt. It's a different type of process by which you're actually pretty much preserved the way you looked in life, rather than being dehydrated and looking like a big piece of beef jerky wrapped in bandages, as in the case of ancient Egypt. However, very pricey. The basic process costs $67,000. Yeah. Now, if you contact some of them, they do have a plan where you will their body to them at death, and that is willed to them, and they also will give you an insurance that you pay that it makes them the beneficiary, and therefore when you die they will use that. There's contracts to all this, and they will mummify your body. Of course, paying $67,000 worth of insurance is going to be quite expensive payment, but if you can make it and you really want it, hey, go for it. You can have any coffin form that you want, any type of coffin. You can have the full mummiform, mummiform casket or tomb, sarcophagus. You can have it buried in the ground. You can have a little tomb made for it, whatever you can afford. But it is an option if you have that kind of money. Actually, I kind of like that one personally because, I don't want to see Big Pretty's beautiful body destroyed. This needs to be preserved for the ages. If it's up to me, I'd be mummified, buried in a shrine, and properly worshipped for all time, like a pharaoh. What better way to honor Big Pretty? Of course, and you also got to think about how you feel about your body, what kind of respect you have for your body, for your corpse. Do you want to see it preserved? Do you want to see it deteriorate as quickly as possible? Even though you're dead, a lot of us are still sensitive of what happens to our body. A lot of people don't like the idea of worms and maggots eating it down under the ground. Or if you go into a crypt, you're going to basically inside that coffin, your body turns into a sludge. Ugh. A lot of people don't like the idea of that being happening to their bodies. Also, a lot of people don't like the idea of their body being destroyed and there being no actual body somewhere, even if it's decomposed in the ground or in a crypt or somewhere. They don't like that idea. So you need to consider those things about when you how you want it to be put away. Ways that you would think will make you more comfortable here in life. Because last thing you want to be thinking about when you're in your last moments is, oh my God, they're going to shove my body down the ground. I'm claustrophobic. Oh my God, they're going to burn me. I don't want to be burned. Those type of things. If you find some way of having your body put away that is philosophically and maybe even spiritually more comfortable to you, then do it. If you like the idea of going back into the circle of life, then a natural burial, let yourself decompose naturally. Or you can be heavily embalmed and shoved in in a crypt. But there is another alternative I just found out about, and I kind of like it, even though I don't like the idea of my body being destroyed, and I certainly don't want to be burned. And I'm not really fond of the idea of things, laying and moldering in a box somewhere. There is another alternative of having your body composted, turned into compost. Now that may sound kind of gruesome and strange, but there is actually a company out there called Recompose, and right now, to have your body turned to compost is only legal in 3 states. I think it's in Colorado, Washington State, and Oregon. I know they tried to pass it in California recently, and it was shelved for the moment. I think it will eventually be legal in California. But I'm hoping the time I pass away that this is accepted in either my state or a state near me, because I would love to have this done. It costs about somewhere between $5,500 and $7,000, about the average for a funeral. But basically, they put you in, they put you in this this container with wood chips and other vegetation, dead vegetation, and for with air and all that, and the natural microbes, just like a compost heap, deteriorates your body. And it's not so. It is rot in a way, but it's actually more of a disintegration. Your body disintegrates. When I say it disintegrates, within about 30 days, your body will break down completely into compost, into dirt. And in that process, it's going to, any toxins you have in your body from medicines and all that, the composting process eliminates a lot of that, neutralizes a lot of that. It even will disintegrate most of your bones in that 30 days. What few bone fragments are left will be ground up like they do with cremation, and put back in with the compost. That's just phosphorus, so it'll just go right back, and calcium, that'll just go right back in. And then after about 30 days, they let your compost ripen a little more. They test it, and at that point, you are a couple of 100 pounds of compost, completely broken down. It even breaks you down on a molecular level. So you're even breaks down DNA. So you're no longer even really human anymore. All that's human of you is gone, but all the nutrients and all the things that made you is in this soil. And that, and they even do have a ceremony. They lay you out on a tray. Your family can come in, play the music you like. They put a sheet over your dead body, a degradable cotton sheet, and the family will come, and friends can come and pour wood chips on you, put flowers, cover you in flowers, which would be very cathartic. Most people have said it is very beautiful closure type of experience for them. You can have prayers read as you're doing this, songs being sang, and then at this end of this nice ceremony where all of your friends have prepared you to return back to the earth, they put you into the container, and in 30 days your dirt, your compost, and when that compost comes out, you can either have it take some up, put it in an urn or whatever, or take it, grow some flowers in front of you, or a tree from you, or you can you can donate the rest to be used, maybe for deforestation. I personally, if I'm allowed to have that done, I will. And I've actually told my fiance and my sons that if I can have that done, to take some of the dirt for themselves for an urn, and take the rest to a grove of trees somewhere. Someplace like maybe a national park or something where you can, it won't be disturbed, and have it scattered around the trees and around the ground in a certain area. So that way, what I am is still causing things to live. My essence is in the grass and in those trees, and that the nutrients that made up who I am is now inside these living things, and I will continue in this living cycle. And whenever my children or my grandchildren or my widow want to, or other relatives or friends want to go visit me, they can go there and sit and meditate, knowing that I am part of all the living things around me, around them, that I am there in those trees and in that soil. They are in a place that's full of my life force and the nutrients that caused my life. I actually think that's fairly beautiful. It's better than saying, well, we're going to throw you in a compost heap and let you rot. And so I'm actually kind of supportive of any legislation that allow that to happen in other states. A lot of Catholics are against this, you being turned into compost. Thing is, ashes to ash, you come from the earth, you return to the earth. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Because guess what? Burying a coffin, sooner or later, you know what's going to be? A pile of black soil in a box into the ground. You know, I'd much rather have that as topsoil to help other living things. Then that's my personal thing. Now, for the last thing I'm going to say here is a lot of this material I got, I'm going to flat say I borrowed it, you know, or was influenced by Caitlin Doughty over at Ask the Mortician. I highly recommend her channel, Ask the Mortician. She's been doing this for over 10 years. She really doesn't need my advice from my little channel. You know, she's got 1.8 million followers. Some of her videos get a million hits. She really doesn't need my recommendation with my little, 900 something. But I'll give it anyway. And she's actually very funny, full of a lot of information over at her site, a lot of interesting death cases and burial cases, and mummies and all of that. And she's really kind of delightful. And and very funny. Her videos are very funny and very informative, good content, very funny. I highly recommend her channel, and I'll put a link down below. So, well, that's about it for this video. It's a very grim subject, but it's like I said, it's something that we need, it is something we need to confront, and as mature adults and as extra large men. Once again, we're going to probably need extra resources, more accommodation, and it's going to cost more money. So if we can line all that out and get that financial support for our families and have all those issues already fixed before they ever step in the door, it'll make your passing a little easier and less traumatic, and actually uphold your dignity. And Big Pretty, he's going to want his dignity. So what? If you're enjoying my channel, before I die, could you go over and hit this subscribe button? This King Henry with my pretty face, and subscribe if you haven't already, and also give me a like. And if you have any ideas or anything about death, any questions, or what you want to do, I'd love to hear it down below. I love hearing from my subscribers and fans. So what? Make those funeral arrangements. Make that death plan so that when you're laying in whatever box that you're laying in, they walk up, you'll stay pretty.